Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday to you. Today is May the 21st, 2017. It is Sunday morning. Coming to you live from my mobile studio, aka my mobile home slash home away from home on wheels, my office. Working on getting back home now, but it's what I do. Life on the road as a truck driver. It's a good life. Been doing it for 20-something years, but on and off, different versions of it. So this is just another phase. But I wanted to jump right in today and talk about the current stuff that's going on recently. And as I understand it today, Donald Trump, as I like to call him, President Agent Orange, is in Saudi Arabia. Now there's some kind of $200 million or $1 billion deal, or $100 million or $1 billion deal, doesn't matter, of money that he's giving to the Saudis for arms. Let me just tell you this. The Saudis don't need nothing from us. That country has money to just flush down the toilet and oil reserves, but yet here we are funding them. In addition to that, Saudi Arabia, all the terrorists from 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia, not Iraq, like everyone still believes. They were from Saudi Arabia. So when President Obama made a arms deal to disarm and discontinue Iran's quest for nuclear arms and to be monitored more by the world stage, he said he was going to give back their money, which we were holding from them. It was their money. We held up their bank accounts. Everybody got up in arms saying he was supplying the Muslims and everything else. Listen, I don't know why you all have a problem with Muslims. It's a religion just like Christianity, just like Judaism, just like Buddhism. All these different religions have their own roots and their own origins and their own beliefs. And just like every single religion, every single person is capable of good and bad. Unfortunately, the bad that people do, let me just put it this way. It's just too bad that we don't see more of the good of everybody than the bad that we do see. Nevertheless, it's real and it's a part of life. So, but Donald Trump is over there giving a speech right now about Islam. I wouldn't trust Donald Trump to give a speech about blowing my nose. I have no respect for a person who denigrates people constantly, as he's done in the past. It's been proven what he said. We all witnessed and listened to his rhetoric about hate and everything else, and particularly against people of the Middle East and Muslims. He's not even versed on people of color in America. In fact, in 1971, I believe, or maybe it was 76, you can check for yourself, him and his father were sued in federal court for housing discrimination because he would not rent to minorities.
Come on, driver, I'm turning left here.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, you all can research that if you want to for yourselves, but, and I do apologize for the shaky video here, but I'm kind of on the move, got things to do. Why do people continue to follow leaders that obviously they show us, they tell us that they're just not good people? Forget about your political side, forget about what you think they're going to do, what they might do. It's obvious Donald Trump is not a good person. He's only concerned about himself and his money. And if you all think that capitalism is the answer to everything, well then you're part of the problem. And America was founded on weak principles, ill-gotten gains, and most of the places in the world where, and let's just start back in Africa, where a lot of Africans were displaced, discriminated against, and just disallowed to continue their native life, and taken and enslaved around the world. And that's how we, obviously how we ended up here in America. And people also, at that, I guess before the 1600s, mixing of the races in Africa, other people, Europeans coming in, Danish people coming in, and once these children were born, they were, of course, lighter complexion. What they did is they took these people and they used them against the other Africans, and they started a hierarchy system. So the lighter skinned you were, you had more power. So there's the beginning of how this Willie Lynch syndrome came to be in America with the division among people of color, and we still have that today. It was a very, very powerful tool, and it's still lasting in today, where people of all color. I've lived in Puerto Rico, where even the people there, light-skinned Latinos, do have some resentment, if you will, and I've witnessed it against the darker-skinned Latinos in Dominican. Again, they're all direct descendants of Africans, as we all are, but a lot of you all won't acknowledge that either. My point about today is, I'm not sure, talking about Black history, and it does tie into politics and things that are going on. And it might seem like I'm jumping around, but I'm really not. When we get back to history, world history would have you believe that Africa did not contribute anything significant to the world, which is totally opposite. The birthplace of civilization, modern civilization, is out of Mesopotamia, which is currently modern-day Iraq, and that area where people actually changed the life of the human race. As we started living, became farmers instead of hunters, and in that African area, especially northern Africa, where the Moors, a great civilization, came out of, and they were conquerors. They conquered a lot of places, occupied places in Europe, particularly Spain, for I believe 800 years. And even the Spanish people denounced that history and try to run away from that part of their history because they're trying to claim that they're being pure and nothing else happened. But everything in life has a genesis. Every single thing, the beginning of the earth, the beginning of each life, and the beginning of history, the beginning of recorded history. So it's there. The facts are there. And what happens, unfortunately, different groups come along and they try to change history to benefit themselves. Sadly enough, people don't take that history and share it and build onto it. They have always tried to take it apart to fit their needs. And we here, fast forward today, are no different in this country. However, that oppresses people and it lifts other people up. And the people who have been lifted up for hundreds of years look differently and look down on people who've been oppressed, to the point where you start to dehumanize them and you don't value them and you wonder why they are not doing as well as you do. I'm jumping back to America now, 400 something years later, since the 1600s, and even as recent as the Civil Rights Movement in the 60s. And up to now, where we just had our first African American president, which a lot of you all still didn't want no part of. But yet we have a Constitution that declares that all men are created equal. I might add that the word woman needs to be added in that as well. That was the actual Constitution that was written that was not adhered to for Black people. Our history still reflects that. Our education system still reflects that. Our values still reflect that. So we still live in a divided America, which has always been divided. There's always been a separate America. There's always been a separate Black America. That's the way it was designed. Honestly, I know a lot of people that had the way, we would still be enslaved people right now, truthfully. But you're always talking about celebrating diversity and be one, be Americans. Well, it's hard to be one under a flag that stands for the division of people in the beginning and the oppression, socially, economically, and physically, of people who live differently. And this is 2017. Yes, things are different. Yeah, it is not blatant, outright racism, although it is manifesting itself more since Donald Trump has become president and starts spewing his message of hate more. People feel more emboldened, but that shit ain't gonna fly. I guarantee you to walk down the street and just start calling people niggas if you want to. Do it around me and see what happens. My point is, all this separation and division, it's going somewhere. I don't know when it's going to get there, but it's going somewhere. It's the people reacting to eventual need for change, and we do need change. We need change because the people who are typically, and let's just call it what it is, white Americans in America, there's always been good Christian folks out here, always. There's always been people that have worked and supported the civil rights movement and to abolish slavery, and I'm grateful for those people. I have family members and friends today who are all in favor of just a cohesive, loving, peaceful life amongst each other and learning and benefit from each other. But there's also the people on both sides and every side who just don't want a part of anybody else other than what they know and who they look like. So for you people, I say go back to your caves, go wherever you came from, and go stay there by yourself, because we were not meant to live that way. And if you think that just because you're better off and someone else might have been born in the ghetto or lives in the projects or lives wherever, that somehow they deserve that life, and it, your wonderful life and your access to education and everything else that you benefit from, they shouldn't benefit from that either. You're flat out wrong. This is supposed to be the land of opportunity, and somehow the capitalist society has taken, the capitalist idea has taken hold, where money equates power. Well, the people who for 400 years have not been allowed to own property, not been allowed to get an education, read, write. How would you expect a group of people for 400 years to be as equal as you are when you've been afforded that? And maybe not you today. And I know a lot of you saying, well, that has nothing to do with me today. I didn't do it. My grandfather didn't do it. Yeah, your grandfather did, or was a part of it, or at least benefited from it, your grandparents. And that brings me to another point where I talk to people about this, how, my father grew up, he's 87 now, so been around a long time, mother and father. They experienced discrimination in America. Their education level was held back because of the segregation. That's real. That's lasting. That's affecting today. It doesn't affect me in a sense today because they always make sure that I worked harder to become something better than they were, and every generation should do that for the children. But don't you agree that every child in America should have the opportunity to become great and live up to their potential? Because I do believe everybody is born great. It's just the opportunities that we have or don't have. That's the truth of what happens in America. And again, if you do not uplift everybody, people fall off, people get left behind. That's not how the world is supposed to work. It's what's been happening in America. I don't believe that it's going to continue to last, because people like yourselves who are listening and agree with this are going to stand up and do something about it. We cannot truly be united until we stop the police officers from killing unarmed black people in America. We can't be united until people in the black community stop killing each other over drugs and things that don't even matter, that just contribute to the demise of our race, that were planted by white Americans back in the day. Richard Nixon started the original war on drugs. It's true. Just Google John Ehrlichman, who will talk about what the Nixon campaign started before he was thrown out of office, run out of office. The Black Code laws that came out of after the Emancipation Proclamation, where again they started America after slavery ended, put black people who didn't have jobs, they put them in prison. If you didn't have a job, you got sent to prison after slavery ended. So who would hire slaves for money when they could have used a slave for free? Come on. And I keep saying, we talk about reparations, but the best thing we can do for reparations is start to talk about publicly in America the true history of black America, because it's always been separate, but yet you want us to be equal. Well, equal means we need equal rights, equal access, and equal representation in our history. It's been a slow path to this point, but my generation and my children's generation, we're not standing for it. We're not waiting for someone to give us the opportunity to be great, because we are great, and you're seeing that. You're seeing more people standing up and making that known. So when you oppose something that is different from what you're used to, it just shows your inability to grow. It shows your inability to actually want the truth and want that same level of freedom that you so proudly proclaim when you stand and salute the flag and listen to the national anthem, a song that does celebrate the demise of enslaved people. So hypocrisy is the word of the day. America is one big hypocrite, it always has been, destroying and wiping out almost all the Native Americans for land and property. As you go through, as I drive as a truck driver around the country, and just see all the amounts of land owned by white folks, don't you think that it's a little odd that you don't see anybody else of color owning this much land in America? Because black people were not allowed to own land, and land equates wealth. It still does in almost every country. So when you have 400 years of people not being able to own anything, that is the lack of transference of wealth, knowledge, education of a people. And that is what you're seeing today, the residuals. We are living in the vestiges of slavery and what has happened after slavery right now. So there has to be an uprising. Doesn't necessarily have to mean it's going to be violent, but an uprising of just voices, people, and understanding on all sides who really see the truth and really see what needs to happen and start embracing that. And you can't keep defending police officers killing black people, unarmed black people, for no reason. Stop resisting. People with their hands up in the air. People walking backwards to the cops. People complying to the cops. Guys standing in the corners talking, getting arrested for selling cigarettes, and then being choked to death by police officers. That's worse. So don't talk to me about black on black crime, because there's no such thing as just citizens killing citizens, which is terrible. I wish that all the killing would stop in the world. That's a little idealistic. What's the term? I'll come back to that. But the fact is, you have paid civil servants out here that are taking lives because you're trained to think black people are worthless and black people are bad and commit crimes. Let me tell you who's the biggest perpetrator of crimes in America. It's the United States government. Has committed more atrocities and does more dirty, underhanded dealings than any place else in the world. That's the truth. I've worked in government over 30 years, one way or another, serving the country, and I've seen it firsthand. I know you all have too. So we've got to start looking at this differently. You people that are sitting out here proud, thinking just because your grandfather did this and that, just imagine if we weren't allowed to celebrate your own heritage, your Irish heritage, or your German heritage, or your Italian heritage. Just imagine if all your grandparents' pictures and all that memories were stripped away from you, and you weren't allowed to celebrate that anymore. That's what it's like to be black in America. Our history was stripped away and stolen from us, and then it was redesigned for us to think another way. And now people are actually discovering the truth. It's nothing new, but like I said, our generation today, we are putting it out there. We're going to continue to put it out there and teach our children and teach anybody who will learn and listen along the way. Because this message has to get out, it's going to get out. So when you start to wonder why they always want something of their own, because again, we don't have our own. This country was not designed for black America. Not to be free and not to be equal partners involved in it. That's obvious. Our history reflects that. So they always say, history, if you don't learn from your past, you're going to repeat it. Well, we're learning because we ain't repeating slavery or no parts of it. Even with the current administration doing some of the things they're doing, working so hard to undo everything that President Obama did, and trust and believe, just about everything President Obama did was for the betterment of all people in America. But more importantly, to preserve the rights and the freedom and integrity of people who weren't able to do for themselves as much. I'm not concerned about the 400 families in America that own more money than most countries in the world. They have obviously benefited, not necessarily from hard work, as you all like to think, but like I said earlier, when you have 400 years of just amassing wealth, knowledge, and land, it trickles down to your family, and after that in your generations. Not to say that some of them didn't work hard and create their own wealth, but most of the times it was just given to them by circumstances. Does that make me bitter? Absolutely. It just continues to show you how unfair America has been. I don't want to hear about it. The world's never supposed to be fair. But just speaking about those things I just talked to you about and we just discussed, you cannot possibly be a person of non-color and feel great about yourself in America and about your place. But you can feel good about where we're going, what you're attempting to do, and what we should be doing. As you see your children go to school with my children and so on and so on. That should be your concern. That's what you should be more concerned about, that they all learn the same thing. They all learn to respect each other, learn from each other, and love each other. Now, I know that sounds strange to some of you all, but that's what needs to happen. And like anything in life, anytime something has to get better, it has to go through a process of healing. When you get cut, I talk about all the time, you get a scab and the scab's over. That scab is ugly and it hurts the wound underneath, but eventually it gets better. So, America's got a big old scab on it. All the way that it's going to get better, it has to heal itself, and you got to rip that scab off, and it's going to be painful, and then underneath is going to be new skin. And that new skin represents new ideas about people understanding, loving, caring, and be concerned about each other, and wanting to share the wealth and help each other along the way in every community. Until that happens, we have been living and teetering on the brink of something. I don't know what something's going to be or what something is, but it's going to have to get better. Those without won't continue to do without it when there's nothing left. And that's what surely is happening eventually in America. So we got to get back. We're going to talk about making America great again. Well, let's just start with let's treat people with dignity and respect here in our own communities, in our own country, and around the world, and get people like Donald Trump out of office, because he does not belong there. He is an evil person. He is self-centered. He's a very dangerous, loose-tongued person. That's not a good combination to be looking up to and have somebody there making decisions for a whole country. So forget about your politics, your political view, what side you're on. We need to start thinking about all of our children growing up together in a place with meaningful jobs and meaningful lives that they can produce and be a part of. All right, with that being said, I'm going to get deeper into some of these other subjects a little bit later on, but just think about what I've been saying, research it, Google anything I say. You can feel free to reach out and talk to me about it. I'm glad to discuss anything with anybody in a respectful manner.